A lot of people I met, they're acting like very normal people. And again, it's not like there's some crazy special person. I'm sure there's a lot of people that I'm surrounded with that have made like over 100K or even more in high school doing a company or like they've done some like crazy accomplishment. But like I noticed that they're notoriously humble. I've noticed they're very caring. They're checking up on people. They're asking, what's doing. Obviously very social. Those characteristics did stick out to me. Like most of the people that are in Wharton, they've done something, like some kind of own initiative. I've only met a few people that either haven't told me they did something of their own initiative, but they've done something, like a company, a nonprofit, just something that was like really, really credible and they did on their own.
Guys, before we get into the podcast, 91.6% of you guys are not subscribed. So please do hit the subscribe button since it will help get even crazier guests and blow up the channel. So yeah, let's get back into the video.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Gen Z Fastlane. Today we have Sid here, who is a freshman to Wharton. So yeah, Sid, why don't you do a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, hey guys, thank you, Bosco, for inviting me on this great podcast. But yeah, my name's Sid. I'm a freshman here at the Wharton School. And in high school, I was involved in a lot of things. But yeah, one of the biggest activities or my time commitments in high school was a marketing agency that I ran. So have some entrepreneur experience as well. But yeah, super excited to chat with Bosco about any questions, advice that I could offer.
Nice, nice. So let's just start off with, talking about Wharton, right? So
Yeah,
you've just started class in
yeah,
Wharton.
yeah.
So before we get into, the smaller details of, application and everything that everyone, wants to know, right? My question is, what are the check boxes that Wharton ticked when you applied to, all of these colleges, and what were some of your other school choices as well?
Yeah. So, um, yeah. Okay. So let me break it down. Sorry, I got kind of confused. But obviously, your grades, it's an Ivy League school. I know everyone says that. I don't think you need the highest, like, valedictorian grades for Wharton because something that Wharton really cares about is how you are as a person and what you do outside of school. So for me, like extracurriculars were really big. And like a big thing that people overlook is what type of person you are. Something that Wharton and UPenn itself, takes a lot into consideration is, what type of person are you, like you are really, like, are you a good person? Do you enjoy giving back to the community, to the people? The whole Wharton culture itself is also very highly regarded on mentorship. And so it's like upperclassmen are helping underclassmen. And so those are just like some things that they look for as well. Obviously you have the big check boxes like, test test scores, grades, and overall being like an ambitious student. But I would say besides like the quantitative data, it's very like gray. Like I wouldn't say there's more check boxes besides just like having decently good grades.
Yeah, nice. Super interesting. So, like, based on your overall research and, couple weeks into Wharton itself, like, what's the overall demographics of like the cohorts in Wharton? Like, I guess
Yeah,
like deeper into this question, it's like, what's the ratio between students who wants to become like, I guess like more professional path, like investment bankers versus like
yeah.
entrepreneurship with the startup world?
Yeah. So the stereotype is very true. And the stereotype, if anyone doesn't know, is that everyone at Wharton just wants to do high finance, specifically investment banking. And so for some rough numbers, there's around 600 kids in Wharton per grade. Um, and so I think that culture, that stereotype is something Wharton is trying to change. They're falling behind in entrepreneurial like successes compared to like Harvard and Stanford. And in reality, entrepreneurs is what really like really successful entrepreneurs is what really give the brand of Wharton value because like all that money comes back to the schools or endowment and stuff. And so I think they're trying to change the culture as we speak. Like I've met a lot of kids in my grade. I would say I don't know how many kids I've met, but a lot of them are very entrepreneurial minded. They're very into like venture capital. They want to get into being their own boss per se, but just not wanting to go down that investment banking pathway. But what happens is that a lot of students, as they transition into sophomore year, they get roped into like the funnel of like investment banking.
Yeah.
And so I remember an upperclassman telling me that around like 400, 450 kids are either doing investment banking or consulting. Um, but I really do believe that that number is going to be lower for our class. I think they're just admitting students who are more entrepreneurial.
Nice, nice. Great to hear that.
Did I answer
So,
that question?
yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty good, answer. So, like comparing like Wharton to some other schools like, UCB, in the
yeah,
Bay Area, and
yeah,
like, Harvard, Stanford. Like
yeah,
overall, what would you say are, the core differentiators between these schools based on, your research?
yeah. I mean, I think one thing that's really, you know, special to Wharton is that they're quote unquote regarded as the best business school, undergraduate business school. And
Yeah.
so that's something they really try to instill in a lot of their undergraduates. And again, another stereotype is that Wharton students are really, really insufferable, that they just have like a chip on their shoulder. It's just the culture. They really want the student to believe that they're at the best place they can be. So like they do a lot of, uh, they spend a lot of time trying to, tell you that you are in a very good position. And so like that pride, they really care about that pride as well. Compared to like Harvard, Stanford, UCB, I really think like if you want to go into high finance, if that's something that you really, really like, that's like something you think you want to do, you want to set up yourself for like a really good career in that field, then I don't think there's any better place to go than Wharton. Maybe Harvard, but even then I would say it's like really, really close. Stanford is its own like separate entity. Like a lot of kids at Wharton did want to go to Stanford. I've encountered a lot of people whose like dream school was Stanford. They either did like early decision to Wharton, but it's because that stereotype with Stanford too is that it's very entrepreneurial. That's also true. So I don't think it's a fair comparison between like Wharton and Stanford, but I would say like for undergraduate studies, Harvard and Wharton are pretty comparable. One thing that I do want to note is that Wharton is notoriously not as difficult as Harvard is. According to like my experience with friends, it's a very big party school here. Like there's a lot of social people, a lot of social energy going around. So, as for UC Berkeley, I'm not the most familiar with UC Berkeley. I just know that it's such a big school that it has a lot of opportunities, but it's also like spread pretty thin because there's so many undergraduates. And it's hard to like with so many kids around, it's hard to feel kind of unique. And so like with Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, you're in like your little own cohort of like 2,000 kids max in your total grade. So those things are important, I would say.
Nice. So having that like community vibe, which is something that, these top schools would bring. So like diving deeper into like the overall environment of Wharton, like could you describe like how was your overall feeling in the first couple of weeks going to school, and like, how are
Yeah,
people here?
I loved it. Like I know transition to college is like notoriously supposed to be like hard or difficult. You're supposed to feel kind of lonely. I mean, I'm a very social person, so maybe it was like a bit easier for me to like just go out and connect with people, but I met my people, quote unquote, my people really, really quickly, just like during like the second day of our orientation. Just people with like like-minded interests and like-minded like qualities, like caring people. I want to, dive more into like the venture capital entrepreneurial space, and I immediately met people who I enjoyed. The social scene is really good here. I'm not even the biggest partier or anything, but like people are having fun. It's a good vibe, good environment. I really enjoy hanging out with people that look like me, so like Indian people. I found a lot of Indian people. It was a great community. Classes were good. I mean, the professors, I haven't really met or been in class with like the really high esteemed professors. Like we're doing a lot of prerequisites right now and just courses that you need as part of your grade. But it's overall just been a really, really good experience. I've had off days in like the 3 weeks, but it's been a very good experience.
Awesome, awesome. Great to hear. So, transitioning over to, I guess, more of what Wharton is looking for. Based on the
Yeah.
people that you've interacted with, like what are some common patterns like either than entrepreneurial that you've seen them done in the previous years? Just like for example,
Yeah.
maybe like did all of them run their own companies? Did they have like three different startups? Did they have like some kind of NGO that they're running? But what are some of the common trends you're kind of seeing?
I would say they're actually kind of humble. Maybe that's just like people don't want to kind of brag right away, but a lot of people I met, they're acting like very normal people. And again, it sounds like they're some crazy special person, but they're very normal. No one's like talking about, oh, I used to do this or like I have this. Like I'm sure there's a lot of people that I'm surrounded with that have made like over 100K or even more in high school doing a company or like they've done some like crazy accomplishment. But like I noticed that they're notoriously humble. Another thing I noticed was like I'm just talking like people characteristics right now, but I've noticed they're very caring. They're checking up on people. They're asking, what's doing. Obviously, very social. Those characteristics did stick out to me. As for like accomplishments, I've met a lot of valedictorians. Um, no one like no one like says it right away, but if you follow them on Instagram or something, you can kind of tell if they've made. But a lot of valedictorians. So yes, people that were academically smart. But yes, I won't lie, I have met like most of the people that are in Wharton, they've done something, like some kind of own initiative. I haven't met I've only met a few people that either haven't told me they did something of their own initiative, but um, you know, they've done something like a company, a nonprofit, just something that was like really, really credible and they did on their own. Um, I don't want to stereotype that because maybe that's just like the people I'm interacting with. I don't think you need something like that to like, be admitted. But the people I've interacted with, they've usually had something.
Nice, nice. Great to hear that. Many people
Yeah,
are very humble at Wharton. I think that's a very,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
nice characteristic that everyone should also have, especially for
yeah.
entrepreneurs. So, diving more into your own, personal application, obviously you ran your own marketing agency and you've actually done, multiple other different things just looking at your LinkedIn profile. What do you think was the one that stood out the most to, applicants? I mean, to like, admission officers.
It was just definitely my marketing agency, and not just because it was super, super like impressive. It was just a big part of who I was. And so it rolled over into a lot of different components of my application. A lot of my recommendation letters talked about it because it was just that was my biggest time commitment, right? So it was really important to me. I talked a little bit about it in my essay, obviously my activity description, um, and it was like the catalyst for a lot of things I did. So
Mhm.
it was like that thing that company was very important to me, and so therefore my application.
Nice. So like I guess like breaking down into further like what specifically about this marketing company kind of like resonated with you like with all of your other projects as well.
Like why I did it?
Yeah, and like I guess the overall motivation and like how it also like I guess like affects some of your other projects that you've previously done.
It was just it very genuinely initially started because I just saw like I could offer something to the community or like people around me I could help. I also quickly realized I could make some like cash on the side, so I was like really focused on as soon as you first make money, and even if it's like not a lot, you get really excited. At least I got really excited, so I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time like trying to maximize that, and then soon enough I realized like I can. This is like something that can be really really good. When I applied to college, and then I started taking everything more seriously regarding college. Like I kept my grades were the highest even when I was the busiest because I just started realizing the importance of every aspect that is required in a college application. And so that basically that company kind of gave me hope that I can be a competitive applicant um, for like really, really good schools. And so it gave me a lot of awareness about opportunities around me and to take like the best initiative that I can do. And one of the other things I did was I had like a small organization that gave back basically in like helping entrepreneurs or like helping people who want to be entrepreneurs, like become entrepreneurs because for me that company was just such a revelation that I wanted other people to um you know get that same sort of realization. And so that was another thing that I started because of that company. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So, like with the overall framing of, I guess, your application for these different schools, like were there some specific tips or like specific strategies that you used when, applying to this school compared to another school, like in terms of like the wordings
Yeah,
on how you, yeah,
I I think you you really need to understand that if you don't see yourself fitting into that school, like as a genuine student, they won't see that either. Um, I knew from like ever since I started researching Wharton or anything, like the people, I immediately always felt that I belonged there, even though it was like, such a competitive school. And then it, I didn't like at the time, I didn't think I was like the most capable person or anything, but I thought my thoughts, that my personality, the way I am, just like everything aligned there. So if I felt that way, then I wanted convinced, and then mission officers should see the same thing. That was my mentality all the time, and it was also just really being really genuine. So you need to like for any future applicants, like you need to look at schools, understand the culture, the people, and really see if that is something you can fit into. And like genuinely, like there's no like you can't fake it. Just because you love Harvard, you can't fake that you're gonna be the perfect student there. I never felt that way about Harvard. Did I apply? Of course I did. But I always like a big thing about Penn is like it's a work hard, play hard school, and I'm literally the type of guy who, like, the way I do is like I'm gonna lock in the day. I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna go have fun. That's how I've always been. That was like a big part of who I was. Like, so I was like, this is perfect. I don't want to go to a school like Harvard where it's only work hard, like kind of. But yeah,
nice, nice. So understanding the culture of the schools. So
yeah,
what were some of the resources, I guess, that you personally used to, just figure out like the overall culture? Was it to ask other people or, watch YouTube videos as many
yeah.
people?
I said this on my LinkedIn post too, but I genuinely think. I mean, I may be exaggerating a little, but I genuinely think I reached out to like 100 people at not all at Penn, right? I was asking about other colleges too, and just understanding that too. But I reached out to a lot of people just on LinkedIn. I would be like, "Hey, I'm a prospective, blah blah blah," and like just be really nice about it.
Yeah.
Most of them will respond. I obviously like some of them are really busy or some of them just don't want to respond. So most of them will respond. They'll either get on a call or do something and just ask them like what it's like because the student who's there, only they know what the real perspective is. As a prospective applicant, you can only just like you can watch YouTube videos or whatever, but you're not truly understanding like what a student's experiencing. I've had like 60 kids reach out to me, um, asking to take a call or something. I've taken literally most of them. So like I'm not like trying to brag about it, but I'm trying to say is like you need to talk to people. Other people do it too. I didn't realize how many people did it until I was sitting here and like people ask me for help now.
Mhm.
Um, but don't be shy. Like you need to talk to people, understand Reddit. Uh, Reddit's a really good resource to understand TikTok nowadays too. TikTok people talk about like a lot of social media gives you perspective and understanding.
Yeah, so just being proactive and reaching out when you need it. It's a
Yeah,
super key
yeah.
skill. Got it. So, like, I'm just still super curious with like, your overall agency, right? You've been running it and, you scale it to five figures, social media marketing. And apparently you started in when you're in your junior year, along with your
Yeah.
sophomore year, which is the two most intense years I personally believe in the high school career. So, like, to overall summarize, like, how hard it was, like, what was your timetable looking like?
I it was my junior year, and I say this with like full modesty. I don't think I was sleeping more than 4 or 5 hours a day. I don't recommend it. I mean, I'm not gonna say I don't recommend it, but I'm saying like it's not because I was working all of the other 19, 20 hours. It was because like I wasn't fully managing my time as I could. But it was really brutal. Like I remember on the weekends I was not able to do what my friends were doing. It was plain honesty, I was out recording for people. I was shooting content. I was working on editing. I was doing a lot of work on the weekends as well. And on after school, like I would come home at 3:30. I had to not. I was a tennis player. I didn't do tennis my senior year. I got through it my junior year because the company wasn't that big, but like I would come home 3:30. I'm doing schoolwork and doing content. I'm either going out of school to record content, coming back 8:39. It was a lot of work. And then I remember my junior year, I had this thing called a special period. It's like an hour and a half where like you can do whatever you want, and I had lunch right after for 30 minutes. And so on a lot of days I would have to go record for my client. So I would literally skip my special, or I would use my special period and lunch to go out and record. Sometimes I would have to drive like 30, 40 minutes to go record and come back, and then I'm back in class. So it is brutal. It is, and I think like, but that's just like it's like an arc for everyone. I've talked to people at Penn too, but they had similar experiences where for some period of time they were so like dialed in and so motivated that they were doing anything they can.
Nice. So, what was your overall motivation with, doing all this and keeping yourself alive? Because I personally tried grinding like that as well, and
Yeah,
you get to a point where you break down, right? Like things don't really go too
yeah.
well. But what kept you motivated?
For the longest time, at least in my community and the people around me, it was like I wasn't given enough of a chance, or I wasn't like almost respected enough. Or for the longest time, people didn't understand what I was trying to say or like what I was thinking. And initially when I was like really like working hard, I was like, I need to prove myself. I need to prove myself. So for some time, like that's not the right way to go about it, but I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm perfect, right? But for the longest time, I was like, I need to prove myself. Like, I'm gonna do this and that, and like, I'm gonna make a lot of money. I'm gonna, get into XYZ college. Like, I'm gonna prove myself. But then later, it was like I would have people come up to me and they'd be like, "Dude, what you're doing is like inspiring me. Like, I want to do this. I want like."
Nice.
I had a few underclassmen who started like a tennis coaching company. I had a really close friend who I helped start like a swim company. Some of my like freshmen underclassmen, they started like a clothes reselling company. It was just like seeing other people be like, dude, what you're doing is right, and it's like motivating me and inspiring me. I was like, I can't let people down. And a lot of people like my mom's always really supported me, but my brother and my dad, like they saw the potential I had, but they would never, like they would keep telling me, you're not using it. And so them being really proud of me was also just like, you're on the right path. You're chasing something that's like, it wasn't just college, right? It was just like, you're chasing something to purely better yourself. And for the goal I had at that time, like, it was to like do well with my company, and there was no like set limit, there was no set goal I was working at. It was just like to progress my company. But like what at later, like during my senior, when I was like that college is my goal, like it was it was something I couldn't have even like imagined. Like 2 years ago, if someone told me, or like if someone was like, if I told someone I was thinking of going to an Ivy League university, they would laugh in my face completely, because I was just like the type of person in my community that they didn't take seriously or anything. So it was a lot of just like bettering myself until like other people are inspired and are proud of me.
Awesome. I think many people also face, the similar story of, just having to prove someone, right? And that kind
Yeah,
of motivates them, and finding their
yeah,
own tribe or community, I should say,
yeah.
is really inspiring. So, like with the whole agency, what were the softwares and systems that you personally ran?
Yeah, so for some time, for a few months, it was like me reaching out to clients. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this. I have the subscription. I would pitch a subscription service to them, like Netflix, but
Yeah.
for like a marketing plan for them. I was using Adobe Premiere Pro. I was just brute forcing content. I would use my camera. I would go record, make all the video. Come up with my own creativity, use Adobe, and then and post and everything. And I was managing like, I don't know, like 10, 12 Instagram accounts. I'm doing that all by myself. At one point it got like really out of hand. So then like I can't do everything. And so what I used to do actually was, if you guys have heard of a software called, or not software, it's like a website called Fiverr.com, basically
Yeah.
freelancers. and I actually would hire people from there, usually countries like India or Pakistan where the labor is a bit cheaper. But I mean, that's nothing bad, right? I'm not exploiting them or anything, but I would give them the videos I need to edit, and then I would have them edit it, and then I would obviously like upcharge the client, and then they would get literally a better video product too. So they're happy, I'm happy, the guy in India is happy as well. So I used to do that, and then I also hired a couple people. I hired a web designer to manage my website, and also he also took care of like Instagram account handling, and then I had a graphics guy who did in-house, not out of house, who did like graphic work and animation.
Nice, nice. And yeah, I completely agree. It's like giving them opportunities, right? Because I'm pretty sure they're going to be super grateful because, the currency and
Yeah,
stuff are very
yeah,
different.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like with different points of your agency, like for example, when you scale to, 5K a month compared to like 10K a month, were there any differentiation points between like these stages?
So the highest I ever got to was 5K a month. But yeah, it was honestly, I thought running when you're making more money uh each month, it's a bit more stressful because you have so many clients that are depending on you, but it's also easier because you see like a really good figure and you're like, okay, I can do this, I'm gonna do this. I want next month to also be 5K or like whatever your
Yeah.
trade, like whatever you're doing. And so like when you're in that growth stage, like the highest I ever got to was 5K, right? But until I was growing, I'm always like, thinking like how do I get more clients or whatever. I realized like 5K was the upper limit that I could, work at with even with the couple people I had, and like there were times where I was like, I want to like before senior year started, I literally considered I want to like take this even further. I want to take like a gap year after senior year, but I realized like that wasn't the path for me. So I realized like when you're at that one value, you're easier. It's easier to like maintain rather than when you're growing.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. I also kind of relate to that because I feel like for, students, like when you're trying to also balance an agency, there's no way you can scale it to like 10K a month with like
Yeah.
five
No, no.
clients.
There's people who do. They do way more. It's just it's some people just have different like guts and
Yeah.
they, different priorities and different skill sets, so each to their own. But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. Like it's tough, it's tough when you're also a student.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. So jumping back to, the overall like business catalyst that you've been running, which is like an incubator for high school students to launch their business. And you kind of said that it didn't really work out. So what actually went wrong here?
So what happened was I only care about helping the student. Like that was something I loved. What the way it started was I helped um one of my friends start a swim business, and so it made me so happy inside. I was like, dude, I want to do this for other people. I want to like give some guidance. And so I would I would help students do that. But then like to reach like a larger scale of students who want to start a business, I would need to like do stuff like plan an event or like
Yeah,
hire like a team to like market the event so people come, because it was like no matter how much free advice or free help that I could offer, it's like students don't want to take a part of it, and that's something I learned the hard way. Not every person is like me who would like see something like this and want to come, and so I didn't want to spend the time and energy and literally BS that it took to get like 100 kids to show up to an event, and then like 10 of them would be serious, and then like two of them would like actually like use my advice and start something. So I was like, I don't even want to reach the masses at one point. Like I tried reaching a lot of kids, it didn't work. So then I would basically just be holding like smaller calls with like people from like a little bit over the country, friends that I know that I know will want to listen to me.
makes sense. So yeah, I completely understand as well. Like, with every single business, like there's so many things you have to handle, like, the marketing, the finance, stuff like that.
Mm.
So I guess at least, I mean, you got the opportunity to help some people and give them
Yeah,
advice.
yeah, yeah.
So like with everything going on, like I saw on your LinkedIn that you've basically, I guess, took everything as like a pause right now, going into a new chapter of your life, Wharton and everything. So like my questions are number one, like are you gonna come back to the the marketing agency scene again, continue hustling, or like number two, what will be your future path looking like? Have you considered that?
So in full honesty, I don't think I'll be coming back to the marketing agency side. I learned a lot. I also started to despise it. At the end of the tenure, I didn't see like a level of growth in like that company that I wanted. Um,
Yeah.
and as I was approaching school, right, Wharton's expensive. I don't want to not give my full effort into a school and a tuition that's expensive. So I want to divert my full focus here, take use of the opportunities here. Um, I think my inner calling is still to be in an entrepreneurial space, but I think for the time being, I want to, learn in school. Wharton has a lot of clubs and jobs, like not jobs, but programs that it offers where you can learn and, build up your skill sets and get a better understanding of what next problem that I want to solve. Um, so I don't want to go back. I want to learn and then I want to build for something in the future.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. So are there any like specific goals that you personally have for yourself, like in the next 5 years, 10 years? Doesn't have to be financially, but like just in general?
Um, I honestly don't. I think people have asked me that question before, but I honestly just don't even think about it. I don't. I'm like a go with the flow type of person. I want to just play it by ear. Like right now, I'm focusing on something right now. I'll be focusing on something next year. I do know that, but like as in a place I want to be, I know I want to be financially secure, like extremely financially secure. I don't want to just be like, getting by, obviously. But I
Mhm.
think if I had to put it one way, the only thing I want for sure, and that's very knock on wood if possible, is like I want to be financially free by 30. And there's a lot of ways I could do that. Obviously, that's very ambitious, early retirement. But I think if I can be financially free by 30, I can do a lot of things.
I mean, I think you already kind of accomplished the first step by getting into Wharton because, the opportunities there, I'm pretty sure will be definitely life changing. And I really respect how you talk about like just not setting 5, 10 year goals, right?
Yeah,
Because, things just happen. Like, you never know if another COVID-19 will strike and another
yeah,
opportunity
yeah,
could visit.
yeah,
So, like, I also saw that you're doing like a minor in philosophy. So, what was your
yeah.
overall intention with that?
Bosco, is it okay if we cut the podcast short? I have another call at 7:45, but I would love to chat more another time if that's okay.
Yeah, you're good. All good,
Okay,
all good.
but thank you so much for having me. Love the questions. I hope anyone watching took value away from anything I was saying. But yeah, thank you again for having me.
Back again later on. Have a good one, bro.
Yeah, thank you.